They say your family should be your biggest supporters. Mine? They were the reason I almost missed the opportunity of a lifetime. 2 days before my Harvard scholarship interview, an all-expenses-paid trip to Boston that could change everything, I tore through my room like a madwoman. My government ID, the one thing I absolutely needed to fly, was gone. Vanished. Not misplaced, not buried under laundry. Just gone. I checked my travel folder 3 times, flipped every drawer, crawled under my bed like a crime scene investigator. Nothing. Then I caught a reflection in the mirror. My sister Savannah, leaning in the doorway, arms crossed, smirking like she'd just won something. "Maybe it's a sign," she said, twirling her perfect blonde curls. "God works in mysterious ways." My stomach dropped. I knew that smile. I'd seen it before my science fair project got mysteriously wrecked, before my debate notes disappeared. It wasn't a sign from God. It was Savannah. And this time, she'd gone too far. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd stopped trusting them long ago. I had a secret backup plan, and if they thought I'd give up without a fight, they didn't know me at all. I'm Lena Carter, 19 years old, and the official disappointment of the Carter family, not because I messed up, I never did. I got straight A's, volunteered at the shelter, worked a part-time job after school, but I didn't fit. I wasn't soft or submissive or obsessed with being liked. I wanted more than a Bible study and a wedding ring. I wanted out. Savannah, on the other hand, was everything they wanted. Homecoming queen, church youth leader, choir soloist, the kind of girl who could smile sweetly while stabbing you in the back with a glitter-covered knife. I checked under my mattress, flipped my laundry basket, even pulled my closet apart. Still no ID. "Mom!" I yelled, trying to sound calm. "Have you seen my ID?" "Maybe you misplaced it, sweetheart," came her sing-song voice from downstairs. "You know how scatterbrained you get when you're nervous." Scatterbrained. Of course. That was their go-to explanation every time something went wrong for me. My science project? I must have been careless with the chemicals. My prom dress bleach stain? I should have checked the washing machine before tossing it in. My Harvard acceptance letter mysteriously opened and lost in the mail? Must have been the postal system. I took a breath and walked out of my room. Savannah was still lounging in the hallway, scrolling her phone with the air of a queen watching peasants suffer. "You didn't see my ID, did you?" I asked, eyes locked on hers. She didn't even blink. "What would I be doing with your ID? That's illegal, you know." I didn't respond, just walked past her, my heart hammering. Downstairs, Mom was dusting a vase like we were expecting royalty. Dad sat in his usual recliner, flipping through the same worn Bible he always used as a prop more than a guide. "I can't find my ID," I said, trying to sound normal. "You probably left it at school or something," Dad grunted. "That's what happens when you try to do too much." Translation: maybe if you didn't dream so big, you wouldn't lose things. I had it last night. I put it in the travel folder with my documents. "Then it'll turn up," Mom said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "If this opportunity is meant to be, Lena, it'll happen. And if not, maybe that's God trying to tell you something." There it was again. The spiritual excuse. God as the scapegoat for their sabotage. I clenched my fists and turned back upstairs before I said something I'd regret, or worse, something I wouldn't. In my room, I closed the door gently and sat on my bed. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I pulled out my phone. "Devin, you good?" I typed fast. "Me, it's gone, just like we thought." "Devin, you ready to launch Alpha?" "Me, yeah, let's do it." A ping. "Devin, good. Backup ID is where we left it. You still have the second flight confirmation?" "Me, booked and paid." I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. I had gone to the DMV in secret 2 months ago, right after I got the Harvard email. I didn't tell anyone, not even Devin at first. Just a gut feeling. A warning in my bones that if I left this to chance, someone would ruin it for me. And of course, someone did. I scrolled through my phone gallery and found the photo. Me in front of the DMV, holding the receipt like a wanted fugitive. Date stamped, confirmed, official. Let them try to say I was lying. I'd kept the second ID and the plane ticket hidden at Devin's apartment in Atlanta. He was a freshman at Georgia Tech and the only person I trusted with my life. He knew everything. Savannah's tricks, my family's hypocrisy, how hard I had worked for this. My phone buzzed again. Devin. Want me to come get you tomorrow morning? Me. 4:45 a.m. sharp, crawlspace pack is ready. Devin. Hell yeah. Let's make history. I smiled for the first time that day. Tomorrow, they'd all think I'd given up. They'd think I stayed home like a good little daughter, broken by divine intervention. They had no idea I was about to leave them in the dust. The next morning felt staged, like I was walking through a script everyone else had already read except me. At breakfast, Mom had scrambled eggs ready, extra cheese my favorite. She never made my favorites unless something was off. Dad was still in his recliner, Bible open on his lap like usual, but this time he was reading it out loud. Savannah sat at the table sipping orange juice with the kind of overplayed innocence that would have won her an Oscar. "You okay, honey?" Mom asked. "You seemed so flustered last night." I paused, took a bite of toast. "Still can't find my ID." She gave me that soft, pitying smile, the one that always felt like she was trying to pat down my ambition like frizzy hair. "We prayed about it. Maybe this is a sign." There it was again. The sign, the holy excuse for control. "God's way of closing a door that wasn't meant to open," Dad added. Savannah jumped in, voice syrupy sweet. "It's not like you're a bad student, Lena, but Harvard's intense. Maybe God knows you're not ready for all that pressure." I didn't look at her. I just kept chewing. They were circling me, slowly, carefully, like they were afraid I'd explode. "We just don't want you to be disappointed," Mom said, reaching over to pat my hand. "You've always had such fragile emotions." I almost laughed. Me? Fragile? I was the one who held this family together during Dad's layoffs. I helped Savannah with her homework, even when she turned around and trashed my name behind my back. I had been strong when no one else was, but sure, I was fragile. "I'll try to be realistic," I said, pushing my plate away. Savannah's eyes narrowed just a little. She knew I was lying, but she didn't know how much I'd already planned. By noon, a family meeting had been called. No warning, just Mom yelling from the base of the stairs, "Lena, come down, we need to talk." Devin texted as I walked down the stairs. "You okay?" Me. "Family ambush. I'll text after." They were all sitting in the living room like some weird tribunal. Mom on the couch, Savannah beside her, arms folded, Dad standing by the fireplace like some kind of judge waiting to pronounce guilt. "Sit, please," Mom said, gesturing to the armchair across from them. I didn't sit. "We're concerned about your mental health," Dad started. "Here it comes." "You've been under a lot of pressure," Mom chimed in. "These big schools, these interviews." "You're pushing yourself too hard," Savannah added. "And when things fall apart, it looks like you're blaming me." I raised an eyebrow. "Did I say that?" "You didn't have to," she snapped. "You've been acting like I'm out to get you." Mom gasped, like Savannah had just confessed to murder. "Sweetheart, don't raise your voice." "She's accusing me," Savannah shouted. "I'm not accusing anyone," I said flatly, "but my ID didn't vanish on its own." "You misplace things when you're anxious," Dad said, voice calm but firm. "You've done it before," Mom agreed. "Remember the SAT ticket incident?" "I never lost that ticket," I said, jaw tight. "Someone moved it." "Well, who would do that?" Savannah asked, all wide-eyed and innocent. "I mean, unless you're suggesting I did it." Dead silence. They all waited, watched. I took a breath. "No one said that. But I'd like to know why these things keep happening to me. And only me." "Maybe," Mom said gently, "because you're always reaching for things that aren't meant for you." My chest tightened. "God has a plan," she continued, "and sometimes his plan doesn't line up with your ambitions." There it was, the dagger, covered in prayer. They wanted me to shrink, to accept less. to call it God's will and be grateful. I let the silence sit. Let them feel it. Then I nodded. "You're right," I said, voice low. "Maybe I should pray about it." Savannah blinked, caught off guard. Mom lit up. "That's the spirit, baby girl." Dad finally exhaled like he'd been holding his breath since I walked in. I smiled politely. "Can I go to my room now?" "Of course," Mom said. "I'll bring you some tea later." Upstairs, I closed my door slowly, gently, then locked it. I dropped to my knees, not to pray, but to grab the emergency backpack from under my bed and unzip it. Clothes, documents, cash, my second ID, everything was there. Alpha plan was go. I pulled out my phone. "Me to Devon. They think I'm staying. I'll be ready tomorrow. 4:45 Devon, you're a legend. Me. Not yet. But I will be. I stood up and looked at myself in the mirror. The fragile girl was gone. This was the girl they tried to break, and failed. Tomorrow morning they'd wake up to an empty bed and a note they couldn't spin into a church sermon. Tomorrow I'd become someone they couldn't control anymore. The moonlight poured through my blinds like quiet approval. Everything was packed. Everything was ready. They thought I was praying. They thought I was processing. In truth, I was running simulations in my mind, timing how long it would take to move from bed to door to driveway without hitting the creaky stair, how loud the crawlspace latch clicked when I opened it. I knew this house like the back of my hand. I knew their sleep schedules, their footsteps, their habits. They had built a cage and raised me in it, but they never taught me how to stay in it. They'd always underestimated me. That was their first mistake. The second? Thinking I'd stick around forever. I pulled out the small lockbox hidden in the crawlspace behind my closet. Inside, the backup ID I'd gotten from the DMV back in March. Tucked beside it was the alternate plane ticket to Boston, paid for in cash and booked under my full name, Helena Marie Carter. Not the Lena they knew, not the Lena they tried to contain. I took one last inventory: second ID, flight itinerary, college documents, $600 in saved tip money from tutoring and babysitting. Freedom plan, fully operational. I texted Devon, "Me, ready. You?" Devon. "Cars fueled, routes mapped. I even loaded up on gas station snacks." Me, "You're the real MVP." Devon. "We're getting you out of there, Lena. Tomorrow you breathe free air." He'd always had my back. Even when I didn't believe in myself, Devon did. While Savannah tore me down with smiles and whispers, Devon built me back up with real talk and loyalty. We weren't romantic or anything. We were just the kind of bonded that only survivors understand. At exactly 9:45 p.m., Mom knocked on my door. "Sweetie?" Her voice was soft. I slipped the box back into the crawlspace and shut the panel. "Come in." She opened the door, holding a cup of tea. Chamomile. Always chamomile. "I know this is hard on you," she said, setting the cup down on my nightstand. "But you'll see, it's for the best. God works all things for good." "Even when people steal your ID?" I asked, quiet but pointed. She paused. "That's a serious accusation, Lena." "I never accused anyone, but I know myself, and I don't lose things." Mom gave me that thin-lipped smile. Sometimes we imagine things when we're under pressure. Gaslight, repeat, manipulate. It was the same formula every time. "Okay," I said softly. "Maybe I'm just tired." She exhaled, satisfied. "Rest, sweetheart. Things will feel better in the morning." She kissed my forehead, like that erased years of dismissal and erasure. When she left, I stared at the tea for a while, then poured it into the potted plant by the window. Let them think I drank it. Let them think I was folding. I pulled out my earbuds and blasted my victory playlist on low, Halsey, Lizzo, Beyoncé, the anthems of every girl who ever had to rescue herself. At midnight, I messaged Devon again. "Me, just checking in." "Devon, I'm parked down the road, slept for 3 hours. I'm wired on caffeine and revenge. Let's go." I smiled. Devon was the kind of person who turned loyalty into an art form. I typed, "Me. Crawl space bag is packed. ID is locked in. All I gotta do is slide out when they're sleeping. Devin. You got this, Elle. You're done being their scapegoat. Around 1:30 a.m., I lay down in bed, fully dressed, bag stashed under my bed. I didn't sleep. I didn't even close my eyes. I just breathed. Slow, steady, calm. I thought about Savannah in her room across the hall, probably dreaming of college interviews she didn't have, probably already plotting how to twist this situation into another sympathy post for her church friends. I thought about Mom, resting easy, thinking her daughter was finally surrendered to God's will. I thought about Dad, who never once stood up for me even when he knew the truth. They had all mistaken my silence for weakness. But silence is just strategy. At 3:58 a.m., I texted Devin and me, 47 minutes. Devin, you are the storm. I stared at the ceiling. No fear, no regrets. Tomorrow I'd be on a plane to Boston. By next week I could be walking the campus that had once seemed like a dream too big for a girl from a town too small. And the best part? They couldn't stop me now. Because while they prayed for me to stay small, I was building a life they'd never be able to control again. I woke up, or rather, got up, at 7 a.m. sharp, like I'd actually slept. I hadn't closed my eyes once, but I had work to do. The performance of a lifetime was about to begin. In the mirror, I looked pale enough to pass for exhausted. I dabbed a little water under my eyes to make them puffy, smudged some mascara for effect, tossed my hair into a messy bun. If Savannah wanted fragile Lena, I was going to give her an Oscar-worthy performance. I walked downstairs slowly, shoulders slumped, dragging my feet. Savannah was already in the kitchen, posting something to her Instagram story, probably some cryptic Bible verse paired with a selfie where she looked just devastated about my ID situation. "Oh, Lena," she said, voice syrupy. "Any luck finding it?" I shook my head. I guess I lost it. Her eyes narrowed, just for a split second, but then she smiled. "I'm sure something better will come along. You know, a local community college or something." I nodded. "Yeah, probably." That threw her off. She blinked fast, like she hadn't expected me to fold so easily. "Good. Let her get comfortable." Mom was humming some worship song as she buttered toast. Dad sat with his usual cup of black coffee and the Bible open on the kitchen table. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting, if the painting came with unspoken tension and years of passive-aggressive control. "Good morning, sweetheart," Mom said. "I made you a plate. You need to eat." I sat down and picked at my eggs, doing just enough to look obedient. "I'm proud of you for handling this with grace," Dad added, like he was awarding me a medal for giving up on my dreams. "I just realized I was trying too hard," I said softly. "Maybe it wasn't meant to be." Mom smiled like I'd finally said the magic words. "See? That's peace, Lena. That's what it feels like when you give it to God." Peace? No, this was war. A quiet, controlled, perfect war they didn't even know they were losing. After breakfast, I went back upstairs and opened my phone. Devin had sent a text with a picture of gas station snacks, beef jerky, Pringles, Monster energy drinks, gummy worms. Devin, fuel for the Freedom Run? Me. They bought the act. I'm playing their version of me until 4:45. Devin, you were born for this role. Emmy incoming. I laughed softly. Even in the chaos, Devin knew how to cut the tension. Across the hall, I heard Savannah laughing on the phone, probably talking to her youth group girls, framing the whole thing like I was going through another episode. She just broke down, you know? Her voice floated through the wall. We're all really worried about her. I rolled my eyes. The audacity. Savannah wasn't content to just win. She needed a sob story too. Needed to be the brave younger sister dealing with her broken sibling. She always wanted to be the hero and the victim. Let her talk. Let her spin her story. I was hours away from rewriting mine completely. Around 1 p.m., Mom brought me tea again. Chamomile. Always chamomile. "I'm proud of you," she said gently, sitting on the edge of my bed. "You've been so calm through this. That shows maturity." I sipped the tea this time, just to keep the illusion going. "I've just been thinking a lot," I said. "Maybe I made Harvard into this thing. Like if I didn't get there, I'd fail." "That's not healthy," she agreed quickly. "We don't need the world's approval to matter." "But we do need an ID to get on a plane," I said, just enough sarcasm to see if she'd flinch. She didn't. "Then maybe God's keeping you home for a reason." There it was again. God as a leash. I nodded slowly. "Maybe." She left smiling. I poured the rest of the tea into the plant again once the door shut. At 2 p.m., Savannah posted another picture of us when we were kids, me holding her hand, her grinning like the golden child she'd always been. The caption read, "Sometimes you can't save people from themselves, just love them anyway. And family first, prayers for Lena." The comments flooded in. "You're such a good sister. Stay strong, Savannah. God will heal her brokenness." I screenshotted it, not for revenge, just for the record, for my version of the story. By 4 p.m., I was fully dressed again. Jeans, hoodie, sneakers. No noise, no scent, no jewelry, just the essentials. I sat on my bed with my backpack hidden beneath it, listening for sounds. Mom vacuumed downstairs. Dad's voice was on a call, probably one of his men's ministry groups. Savannah was blasting worship music, singing loud and flat like always, all their usual noise, their usual confidence, their usual ignorance, and I was 5 steps ahead. At 4:30 p.m., my phone buzzed. "Devin, I'm on your street. Engine off. Lights off. You good?" "Me. Let's fly." I slipped on my bag, checked my pockets. ID, charger, gum, backup cash. I paused by the door. This was it. One last act. One final scene. Then I was out. The third stair from the bottom creaked. I stepped over it out of habit. My feet moved on instinct, not hesitation. Everything was muscle memory now. In the kitchen, the scent of old coffee lingered in the air. The pot was still half full, the timer set to Dad's usual 5 a.m. devotion time. It burbled quietly, unaware it was keeping a secret for me. I eased past the counter, holding my breath. One wrong sound, one accidental bump against the toaster or fridge, and it could all fall apart. Upstairs, I heard the distant hum of Savannah's white noise machine. Mom's door was shut. Dad's too. Stillness. The whole house wrapped in sleep, unaware of what was slipping away. My fingers found the front door handle. I turned it slow, millimeter by millimeter. The hinges groaned, not loud, but not silent either. I froze, listened. Nothing. I exhaled quietly and cracked the door open. Then a voice cut through the silence. "Lena?" I turned sharply. Savannah stood at the top of the stairs in her oversized t-shirt, her hair a mess, rubbing sleep from her eyes. She wasn't fully awake yet, but suspicion crept across her face like a shadow stretching toward dawn. "What are you doing?" she whispered. I didn't answer. She took one step down. "Is that your backpack? Are you seriously trying to sneak out?" I bolted. Her voice snapped awake, sharp with panic. "Mom! Dad! She's leaving! She's leaving!" I flew across the porch, down the steps, sprinting barefoot across the dew-covered lawn. Devin's car sat at the curb, engine purring, headlights off. The front door burst open behind me. Dad's voice thundered into the quiet street. "Lena Grace Carter, don't you dare!" I dove into the passenger seat and slammed the door. "Go!" I shouted. Devin hit the gas. We tore around the corner, tires screeching. I looked back once and saw Dad in his t-shirt and pajama pants, standing in the driveway, bare feet planted on cold concrete, Mom right behind him in her robe. Savannah stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes locked on me like a challenge. I didn't wave, I didn't cry, I just looked forward. Devin was laughing, half in shock. Holy hell, that was like a prison break. "They're probably already calling every adult they know," I said. "The church group, Pastor Mike, my old teachers." "Let them. I've got 3 fake routes mapped out. We'll switch cars in 10 minutes. They won't catch us." We drove without talking for a while. My heart was racing, but I didn't feel afraid. I felt clear. sharper than I'd ever been. The air through the cracked window tasted like something I hadn't felt in years. Choice. We stopped in a deserted grocery store parking lot off the highway. Devin popped the trunk of his sister's old Honda, already waiting there. We transferred my backpack and documents. I swapped hoodies, tucked my hair into a beanie, and pulled on sunglasses even though it was still dark. "You good?" Devin asked as we got back in. I nodded. "Better than I've been in years." As we pulled onto the interstate, my phone vibrated nonstop. Messages poured in from every family member on every app they had access to. "Mom, come home right now. You're scaring everyone." "Dad, you're making a huge mistake. You're not thinking clearly." "Savannah, I can't believe you'd hurt us like this. You're so selfish." Mom again. "We're calling the police." "Dad, your mother is crying." "Savannah, you'll regret this." I powered the phone off. "I should be crying," I said. "I should be scared, but all I feel is relief." "That's how you know it's real," Devin said, eyes on the road. "You just got your life back." We hit the Georgia state line as the sun was rising. The sky blushed pink and gold over the hills. It didn't feel like just a sunrise. It felt like I'd stepped into a different timeline, one where I mattered. By 6 a.m., we reached the airport. Devin pulled into the departures lane and parked. "You sure about this?" he asked, suddenly serious. I turned to him. "I've never been more sure of anything." He pulled me into a tight hug. "Text me when you land. And Lena, go be amazing. For real." I smiled. "You already know." Inside, the terminal buzzed with morning energy. Families, business travelers, students. No one looked at me twice. No one knew the story I carried in my backpack. The TSA agent barely glanced at my backup ID. "Next, please." And just like that, I was through. At the gate, I found an empty seat near the window. My flight to Boston was on time. I watched the plane pull up and felt my pulse slow. I powered my phone back on for one last moment of closure. There it was. A new Instagram post from Savannah, a selfie in my room, captioned, "Sister's Night In. Some people don't understand that family comes first." The comments were already rolling in. "You're such a good sister. She doesn't deserve you. Praying for your family." I smiled. Then I opened my nearly abandoned Instagram, untouched for months. I posted one picture, my boarding pass. The caption read, "Some people don't understand that freedom comes first." Then I shut the app, tucked my phone away, and watched as my future pulled up to the gate in the form of a Boeing 737. I didn't look back. I had nothing left to look back at. The first thing I noticed about Boston was the air. It didn't feel heavy like Georgia. It wasn't humid with guilt and secrets. It was brisk, clean, electric, like possibility itself. My first steps off the plane felt surreal. I kept expecting someone to grab my shoulder and drag me back. But no one did. The world moved on. Planes landed. Announcements echoed. People rushed past me without a second glance. I was just another girl with a carry-on and a dream. And for the first time, that felt like enough. Outside baggage claim, a woman holding a Harvard welcome sign stood bundled in a red scarf, smiling. I waved. "Helena Carter?" she asked. "Lena's fine." She grinned. "Welcome to Boston. I'm Riley from the Scholar Ambassador Program. Let's get you checked in." The drive to the university felt like stepping into a movie. Brownstone buildings, students on bikes, street musicians. Everything about it was alive in a way my hometown never was. As we pulled up to the dorms, Riley looked over. "Just so you know," she said, "your application was one of the strongest we've seen in years. Digital activism, community organizing, your essay about identity and control. Unreal." "Thank you," I said, stunned. "No one's ever said that to me before." "Well, get used to it. You're not in Georgia anymore." Inside my room, a modest but bright space with floor-to-ceiling windows, I unpacked the essentials and hung up the red scarf Riley gave me as a welcome gift. It matched Savannah's signature Instagram filter color. The irony made me smile. At orientation, I sat among 100 other students who had fought their way here from all over the world, but I wasn't intimidated. I felt like I belonged. The program director stepped up to the mic and welcomed us. Then, unexpectedly, she added, "We have a last-minute addition to our opening presentations. Helena Carter will be sharing her research on online mobilization and youth-led justice reform." My heart stopped. Riley nudged me. "I may have forwarded your essay." Panic flickered, but only for a second. I stood, walked to the front, and faced the room. No shaking voice, no fear, just truth. "For young people, the internet isn't just connection, it's liberation," I began. "It's a place where the silenced rewrite the narrative, where the underestimated organize, where the problem child becomes the problem solver." When I finished, the room erupted in applause. A woman in a tailored gray suit walked over. "I'm with the Global Policy Initiative. That was incredible. We'd love to feature your story in our Youth Innovation Series." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Seriously. We need more voices like yours." That night, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, this time by choice, not pressure. Boston lights blinked in the distance. My phone buzzed. It was Devin. "Devin, you're on the front page of our student news site, Harvard's Rising Star. Look at you go." I smiled. Then the tone shifted. "Devin, your mom's Facebook exploded. They found out you made it to Harvard after all. It's getting messy." I opened my phone. Sure enough, the posts had started. My aunt, "We're so proud of Lena, even if she went about it the wrong way." My mom, "Always knew our girl had potential, just wish she'd trusted us." My dad, "Raising daughters is hard, especially headstrong ones." And Savannah? A picture of her crying in church. Caption, "Praying for lost souls, even the ones who share your last name." The comment section was brutal, but something had changed. This time, people weren't buying it. One reply under Savannah's post said it best. "Maybe she didn't get lost. Maybe she got away." The world was watching now, and they were finally starting to see. 2 days after my orientation speech, I woke up to 20 missed calls and over 100 new followers on Instagram. My inbox was on fire. Devin had sent 6 texts in a row, each one more urgent than the last. "Devin, wake, upper." "Devin, your hometown paper ran your story, front page." "Devin, you have officially gone viral." "Devin, they published screenshots." "Devin, Savannah's post got ratioed." "Devin, people are pissed." I sat up, my heart pounding, not from fear this time, but from something sharper, justice. I opened my laptop and searched for my hometown's local news site. There it was, bold and unforgiving. "Scholarship star accuses family of sabotage. My sister stole my ID." The article was ruthless. Direct quotes from my scholarship essay, a summary of my orientation speech, a line about me escaping in the early morning hours with help from a friend. My parents' names were mentioned. So was Savannah's. They'd tried to spin it their way. The journalist reached out to my family for comment. My mom declined. My dad gave a vague, "We've always supported our daughter." Savannah gave a quote that made my jaw tighten. "It's really sad when someone you love twists the truth for attention." But it backfired. The article included my screenshots, texts Savannah had sent me months ago telling me not to get my hopes up and asking, "Wouldn't it be easier if you stayed close to home?" They'd never meant much alone, but in context, they reeked of manipulation. Worse for her, the news site had dug up an old tweet she forgot to delete, one where she jokingly wrote, "If Lena ever actually leaves, I'll burn her application myself." The comment section exploded. "This aged like milk. And she calls herself a youth leader? Girl, you're not fooling anyone anymore." The church's Facebook group lit up like wildfire. Some tried to defend my family, but others came forward. Old neighbors, classmates, even teachers. One post stood out. Mrs. Valdez, my 10th grade biology teacher, wrote, "I always wondered why Lena's science fair project was destroyed 2 years in a row. Once it was fire, once it was bleach. Both times, Savannah had keys to the lab." It spiraled fast. Savannah locked her account by noon. That same afternoon, a quiet knock came at my dorm door. Riley stood there with a giddy grin. "You've got visitors." "Who?" She stepped aside. Two women in sharp suits waited behind her. One introduced herself as a producer from a national news network. The other was from a youth advocacy nonprofit. "We'd love to have you share your story on air," the journalist said, "especially about how you navigated control at home. It's a conversation a lot of people are finally having." I stared for a moment, then I nodded. "Yeah, let's talk." That night, I sat on a studio stool under the lights, wearing a simple navy blazer, calm, clear, unapologetic. "I didn't run away," I told the host. "I got away. There's a difference. Sometimes families don't hold you back out of hate. They do it out of fear, but it still hurts the same." The segment aired nationwide the next morning. Within hours, my DMs were full of messages from teens and 20-somethings. "This is my story, too. I didn't think anyone would believe me. Thank you for saying what I couldn't." My story had broken past the edges of my town. And Savannah? She wasn't posting anymore, but others were. One anonymous account leaked a video, Savannah on a group call with her friends 2 weeks before I left. The audio was rough, but the words were clear. "She'll never make it to that interview. Trust me, I've got it handled." The caption read, "Looks like she twisted the truth, after all." The fallout was instant. Her youth group role? Suspended. Her college recommendation letters? Withdrawn. Her friends? Silent. She wasn't the golden child anymore. She was exposed. And me? I wasn't fragile or dramatic or rebellious. I was right. They used to call me the black sheep of the family. They meant it as an insult, like I was dirty, disobedient, off track. Like the rest of them were walking some divine path and I was the shameful wanderer. Now? I wore it like a title. A week after my news segment aired, the Harvard campus was buzzing. Professors nodded at me in the hallway. Students I'd never spoken to before approached me after class. "You're Lena, right? I saw your interview." "Hey, your speech during orientation? Legit changed how I think about family." I'd gone from invisible to undeniable. Meanwhile, Savannah was unraveling in real time. Devin sent me screenshots of her newest attempt at damage control, a soft focus video on a fresh Instagram account, complete with a fake cry and the caption, "Everyone makes mistakes, but family should forgive." This time, no one was buying it. Her own comment section turned against her. People weren't just annoyed, they were angry. One top comment read, "You don't get to sabotage someone's future and then cry when they survive it." She deleted the video. Again. My parents stayed quiet, but not silent. Mom made a post about grieving a broken relationship. It was vague, dramatic, and full of Bible verses. Classic. Dad shared a quote about prodigal daughters returning when they're ready, as if I was going to come crawling back, tail between my legs, asking for their version of love again. I wasn't coming back. I was building a life where I didn't need to. One morning, I walked into my policy seminar and found a note on my desk. "We've nominated you for the Rising Leader Fellowship." It was from my professor, someone who'd barely known me a month ago. Later that afternoon, Riley pulled me aside, grinning like she'd won the lottery. "You're on the short list to present at the Global Student Summit next month," she said. "They want someone who can speak on resilience, leadership, and digital advocacy." I blinked. "Seriously?" "Seriously, Lena, they're obsessed with you." I couldn't help but laugh, not out of disbelief, but because I knew they'd see this. All of it. My family, my town, my church. Every time I got invited to speak, every time my name appeared on a program or website or headline, it would be one more crack in the mask they'd worn for years. One more reminder that I wasn't broken. I was brave. And Savannah? She was being erased from the narrative she'd tried to control. Devin texted me a photo of the church bulletin. Under youth ministry leadership, Savannah's name was missing. Rumor was the board had quietly asked her to step down, something about character questions and congregational concern. Another text followed. "Devin, and guess what? They're reviewing your parents' involvement too. pastor's wife said it's a bad look. I didn't celebrate, not out loud, but inside, something deep and long silenced stirred. Not gloating, not spite, just peace. Because I didn't have to destroy them to win, they did that themselves. And all I had to do was finally choose me. The black sheep was out front now, leading the flock. The auditorium in Washington, D.C. was packed wall to wall, delegates, journalists, students from around the country. I stood behind the podium with my name on the screen behind me, Lena Carter, Youth Leadership and Digital Advocacy. 6 months ago, I was sneaking out of my parents' house in the dark. Now I was keynote speaker at a national youth summit. Funny how fast truth travels when it's finally free. The lights dimmed. I stepped forward. My story doesn't start with success. It starts with silence. A beat. I was the oldest daughter in a home where silence was mistaken for peace, where obedience was called love, and where dreams were seen as rebellion. I scanned the crowd. But sometimes the black sheep is just the one who saw the fence and asked, "What's beyond it?" Laughter, then applause. I spoke for 15 minutes about being silenced, about family gaslighting, about having your wings clipped by people who call it protection. I showed screenshots. I read old messages. I shared the moment I looked out that airplane window and felt the weight lift for the first time in my life. When I finished, the room stood, cameras flashed, and I smiled, not for them, but for that younger version of me who once cried in a locked bedroom, wondering if maybe they were right. They weren't. I wasn't too much. I wasn't dramatic. I wasn't broken. I was brave. After the speech, I was pulled into a whirlwind of interviews, photos, invitations. People kept saying things like, "You're the voice of a generation," and "You give kids like me hope." And in the middle of it all, my phone buzzed. "Savannah, I saw your speech." "Savannah, you made me look like a monster." "Savannah, you don't know what people are saying about me." "Savannah, I didn't deserve this." I stared at the screen, the same fingers that once trembled reading her cruel texts now still and steady. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened Instagram and posted one photo, me on stage, mic in hand, smile calm, caption simple. They tried to silence me, so I got a microphone. It took a while to realize it wasn't about revenge anymore. Revenge is hot and sharp and loud. What I felt now was something different. Cool, steady, complete. Peace. Back in Boston, my schedule filled with invitations, one to speak at the UN Youth Summit in Geneva, another to consult on a new digital education initiative. Suddenly my inbox was full of names I'd only seen on the news. Meanwhile, back home, the unraveling continued. Devin sent me clips from church live streams, fewer people in the pews, a pastor hesitating as he tried to explain why the Carter family was stepping back for reflection. It didn't matter what spin they used. The truth had landed. My mom posted a long essay on Facebook about loving difficult daughters and holding on to hope. But someone replied with screenshots of her old posts, ones where she'd dismissed my awards, mocked my ambition, praised Savannah for being humble. She deleted the post, then her account. Savannah vanished from Instagram entirely. Devin texted me, "Your sister finally logged off." That same night, I got a letter, stamped with a university seal. I opened it slowly. "We are pleased to award Lena Carter with the Global Youth Impact Fellowship. The board unanimously voted to fund her research and platform her voice." I couldn't breathe for a second. Not because I was shocked, but because it was the first time I realized I'd made it. No back door, no family favors, no permission. Just me.